Good morning and welcome to the dialogue. It is the time when we look at the major events of the week, and the panel gives us a deep analysis on those major events. My name is Prince Apollo. Welcome to the show. It's a somber mood across the country as we continue to mourn the death in the tragedy at Kiteezi, a landfill site where it is now confirmed more than 35 people lost their lives after rubbish crumbled and buried them. We commiserate with the families of the bereaved, and we appreciate the efforts that are still ongoing to recover the bodies that are still trapped under the rubble. Of course, we also commiserate with the family of Joseph Tamale Mirundi, who also passed on this week, a social political commentator, a media personality, former presidential press secretary, and one celebrated journalist who passed on after a long illness. He will be buried tomorrow, and we stand with the family, the friends, and the whole media fraternity upon the passing of a gentleman who has been both loved and lost, a controversial figure in the politics of this country. I take the honor now to introduce my panel. We'll be looking at two issues. One is the tragedy of the Kiteezi landfill, and we'll be interrogating the intricacies behind this whole tragedy, whether it is criminal negligence or it was just an accident, and also relating to the country's disaster management plan. But also we'll be looking at a court ruling on the service awards that were given to the four commissioners in Parliament. High Court this week ruled that the service awards were lawful, but also faulted the Clerk of Parliament for failing to guide on this issue. So it was lawful but also improper, and the Clerk to Parliament has been the PSST has been directed to reprimand the Clerk to Parliament. Richard Baguma, a communication expert, is with us this morning, a regular panelist, an ardent advocate of proper nutrition. He suffered a setback this week. His bill, the alcohol drinks control bill, was blocked in Parliament. Welcome to the show.
Was thrown out. Thank you very much, Apollo. It's always a pleasure to be here. And first, the Almighty.
Yep.
That one, I thank him. Thank you, Almighty, for giving us the capability and the capacity to come. I also thank you, Apollo, and the management, of course. I also very respectfully thank our viewers and the people who keep us going.
Yeah.
Yeah, setbacks exist, but I'm glad to be here.
Wow. Just a comment. Did you expect such a bill to be thrown out?
For us who live here now for more than half a century, you kind of learn to expect the unexpected. So you can't. There are many things you cannot say will not happen. There are many things that happen that are extremely bizarre, and you are thinking. That's one. Two, I have one or two friends in places, so I had been alerted. So I had been alerted that because of some issues that are not necessarily legislative.
Wow.
Yeah, so there were some legislative issues, but there were some what I can call extra legislative issues that affected the bill. There were there were, for example, people who are officially positioned in places who would have been expected to be pro the bill, or at least voice for the bill. They were extremely silent. And there are some other, issues, relational issues that severely affected the bill. But the second thing we had been warned about that. I had also seen the reports, the two reports, the majority report and the minority report. And I knew that the majority report had recommended that this one doesn't go ahead. But of course, it's unprecedented that even the bill will not be even allowed any debate. It will just be thrown out at the beginning. So, but we always go to a new law. There is always a new law for Uganda. So you can't know how low you can sink. And then I think there is what I can, because we are on air, say was a very unprofessional, presentation by the Attorney General. With all due respect, the Attorney General said that there is no problem of alcoholism in Uganda. That's how I understood him. The Attorney General, now at a personal level, we are all people. We have offices. I don't know, analysts on air. We all have offices, but we are also people. The Attorney General is absolutely economic with the truth. The current Attorney General, cannot say there is no problem of alcoholism in this country. That is being economical with the truth. So I think we hit a new law. And I have said here before that some people in government actually are treasonous. Yes, I've said on taxation, on legislation, of things that destroy people. Alcohol is one of them that is destroying Ugandans. That some people are treasonous. I think that's what happened.
Thank you so much, Richard.
But I must also say that however much you do, we will have an alcohol control law. We can't escape it.
But it has...
You can delay it, you just can't stop it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Jared Were-Wanzara is a public policy researcher. Good to have you again here on the show, a regular panelist. Speak to our viewers and possibly make a quick comment on the bill that was intending to legislate on time when people should consume alcohol, and then amending the age limit for eligibility to consume alcohol to 21. I think those were the proposals, some of the key proposals.
Yeah, thank you very much, Apple. Good morning. Also, good morning to my colleague, Richard, and of course to our esteemed viewers who are with us every Saturday. We thank you. Without you, we would be talking to none. About the bill, I think, Richard, I want to say that your bill has achieved something. One, because there are so many people who are interested in the discussions around health, the negative causes of alcohol, the issues of indiscipline in society, alcohol and crime, alcohol and road safety. So for me, the debate was high, and this time round the bill made it to
the floor.
So for me, that was positive, that it has raised the level to that.
Actually, the first time it was brought to Parliament by Honorable Bachireke Nambozi, did not find time to come to the floor of Parliament.
But what disappointed me is that, when you mention alcohol, some MPs just think maybe they're going to be stopped from drinking beer. And yet, this is not about only beer. Right now, everyone is making waragi in their bungalows, they are selling. If you go to places here like Lower Naguru, you go to places like Kasokoso, it's a zombie country. You find people are drunk speaking to themselves. In the village, you find people with these 1,000 shilling small bottles. By the way, I was looking at the statistics. The percentage of alcohol that government is taxing is less than 45%. The rest is illegal. People are just drinking what you would call far.
But you see, the problem with what we are talking about, it is not illegal. No. What was making it illegal was repealed. When we try to introduce a new law, it is rejected. So it's actually not illegal because there's no law to stop it.
Okay.
So basically,
I understand what you are saying.
You still insist that the law is necessary.
There is a need. Now, you go to Botabika Hospital, the doctors appeared before these members of parliament. They told them Botabika was planned for very few people. Right now, people are in thousands, and most of them are alcohol addicts. So we don't need rocket science, so that we need to regulate this.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our special guest this morning, Dr. Deus Kamunyu Muhwezi. Is a researcher, a lecturer at Makerere University, and he is in the department, if I'm not mistaken, of forestry and biodiversity. But he has, you'll tell us whether, I'm not so sure whether you are still the chairman of the MWASA, Makerere University Academic Students Association. Speak to our viewers. Staff. Welcome to the dialogue. Speak to our viewers.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's been some time since I participated in a TV discussions. I've been resting a bit from yes, I was formerly the chairman of Makerere University Academic Staff Association, and actually also the chairman of the Forum for Academic Staff of Public Universities in Uganda for some time, and maybe that's where but also often I'm a bit active on social media once in a while, not X, but once in a while I have my views on how this country is being governed, or things that go around on a daily basis. And I'm happy to.
You've been so vocal in pushing for rights of teachers and lecturers and.
Yeah. For some time, I've actually said I have not known anything in there that since I was 26 years, I've been, I think, involved in the struggle to foresee
any headways, any success stories,
a better governance system for public universities, and also better wages, more rights within the framework of our laws. Academic freedoms are protected. Maybe that's where I've played my role. I am very proud of my predecessors, probably myself. We've pushed for, not yet there, but at least we have a living wage for our staff. The professors, it can be improved further, but at least for a country like ours, 15 million monthly wage for professor is not very bad.
Not very bad.
And there are others who are still struggling to have theirs, but at least we've been able, and thanks to because this has been like a relay since the Professor Juko time, through to Nwagaba, through to Odoi, Chikunda, and myself. We've done our part. And in addition to yes, it's brought some of us a little stress with the administrators and things, especially when we tackle governance issues, which to me underpin each and everything that we see going wrong here. Starting my teaching in MOOBs and getting involved with the principal there, Barinwa, and misgovernance there as well, and many things. The history of being sacked and suspended and all those things. We've made progress
in a struggle,
in a way that somehow helps.
Okay,
but which is not also liked.
Yeah. Can you make a quick comment on whether Uganda really needed a law to regulate alcohol, the manufacturing of alcohol, sale, advertising and consumption of alcohol? Quickly.
Originally, I'm from the food sciences. I'm actually a nutritionist originally. I did my interning in pediatric nutrition. So I am a relative to food and drugs, and including alcohol. So I view it from the point of view of food and safety of food, and alcohol also included. And for me, this should have been like 10 years ago, because many things have gone wrong. I don't know whether people are even taking the right alcohol. I don't know if they are not taking some other components. I do not know, and I don't know whether the drug authority or whichever authority, it's not even very clear, is really responsible in that area to the extent that they know what actually our people are consuming. That disturbs me even more. I'm not even bothered by the amounts people are taking, but the type of alcohol that is being taken, I'm not very sure it's the correct alcohol. So we are going to see some kind of epidemic of diseases related to what people actually are eating and consuming, not only in the alcohol area, but also in food. These drinks, so Kiteezi something, Uganda, Vichi. No one seems to give them a critical analysis to ensure that people are actually consuming.
That's NDA, National Drug Authority.
But even in Nigeria, it's not clear, like he's saying.
Absolutely.
It is not even clear which authority should, for example, check alcohol. Makerere University, the Cancer Institute, did a study, 2020, I think, and they sampled 13 types of these alcohols, and all of them are not fit for human consumption.
Because additives, these additives they put in, all these, they are chemicals which can kill. Soon you will see an epidemic. A Cancer Institute is going to, in fact, they should put now satellite. We are used to expansion even for wrong things, expanding our cancer access to cancer facilities. They should now start regional cancer institutes. Because we are going to have quite a number of people affected by food and drinks of this kind. Kiteezi, what, mjakure, what. No one is there to standardize this, to oversee this, so whether the right...
There are many concoctions on the market now. Some of them enhancement, something, what?
And so
we must be concerned.
We are talking about alcohol in terms of maybe drinking and hours of drinking and age, but you're not concerned about the quality of alcohol being taken. Many people are going to die of these things, and we will have problems.
Thank you.
That's the view
Thank you.
long overdue. We should get serious.
Thank you, Deus, Dr. Deus. Now, we need to kick off the big show, but quickly, gentlemen, especially Richard, just one comment in tribute to Tamale Mirundi, a controversial figure, but who has done his part in the media fraternity. I don't know if
you see, there is one thing that we have been fearing to say. We have just been talking about alcohol. I think we also need to talk about lifestyle. Tamale has died young, in my view.
60.
Young. Tamale has died young. And Tamale was not a low-level person in access to health care and whatever. So for me, Tamale hurts me. His going hurts me in many ways. So the first one is that, the lifestyle. Because he has died below the average age of a Ugandan male now. So that hurts me. But also is the the person who, to a large extent, conquered fear. You see, I keep saying that one of the things that really keeps us where we are is fear. I say when we come here, we fear to talk about things which we know, and then off air, we go and talk about them.
He conquered fear.
Yeah, to a large extent, he conquered fear. And he was able to reach where he has reached.
Yeah.
The other thing for me about Tamale was his ability to write.
Yeah.
He was such a prolific writer. Right. One time I told him, he said, I'm an author. I said, no, you are a pamphleteer.
Yeah.
Because we would engage. There's a time we met at one of the airports, these travels of ours. And he was telling someone close to me who had then traveled as the pass handler for the delegation of the president. You are bringing back balances, and then you go and pray to God for money. Why are you taking back balances? God has already. But he was extremely brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Gerard Wanzara, the life and service of Tamale.
Well, I saw someone who was very honest and open. His love for African tradition, and then polygamy. I know there are so many people are hiding in lodges, guest houses, but for him he was open about having his wife. So I remember him for that. But I came close to being with him once. That was during a program called Uganda Speaks, 2011 elections, where I, him, and the presidential candidate then, the Honorable Betty Kamya, and Honorable Margaret Muhanga were to feature. And then when he got there, Betty Kamya made a joke and said there is a man contesting against John Ken Luchamzi who looks exactly like you and is not getting any votes because Luchamzi is telling people that you are the brother. Immediately he got angry, did not have lunch with us at the hotel and decided to go quarreling. Saying, I will not sit with such people.
A controversial figure.
He was controversial. He decided to go and he did not return. Actually, the host thought he was protesting and he would come back. He said, no, I'm a presidential spokesperson. I'm not going to waste time here with you.
Actually, he served 13 years as the presidential press secretary. Unprecedented.
Under this government.
Except for Hope Chivenjiri, but otherwise.
Doctor, any comment?
Of course, without doubt, my friend was bright, liver on the contrast. He was I just like the way I can use he often vulgarized everything. Yeah, one of the things I dreaded when I was still participating in these things was getting into his mouth the wrong way. I always feared it. He was a friend of mine. You can't imagine. Once in a while, we'd meet. There was a small bar at Dowinton. Where he used to take soup and all that. And often we met that. He knew me personally because of the several engagements we had in the public. And his sons at that time were studying at the School of Psychology. And once in a while he would make... So the last time actually we met was there. And he seemed to be regretting something before he died, and I think he
seemed to have died an happy man.
In a way that he probably did not like what he defended and lived for years before. He seemed to regret, he seemed to talk of mafias, and I don't know whether he was a symptom of something more serious happening since he served the nation at a higher level. Maybe he was trying to show us he was a symptom of something gone wrong. Maybe he also didn't know what he was serving. But like he's saying, I don't know why he's died young, because he was a high-profile person. One would say he was an example maybe to society, but unfortunately, on many occasions, I don't know whether that was the right presentation, the best for a bright man that he was, the right presentation, and the end, because appeared probably drunk, or which is very tough, and I don't take it lightly, because it seems it's everything that has gone wrong here, because such very important positions of society should also be held.
But even,
to a very extreme.
Gentlemen, even Nagenda died almost the same. I mean, he died. I mean, he's under almost similar circumstances. I mean, he's when by the time Nagenda died, he was also not the Nagenda we knew before. I don't know. I think for Nagenda because they served the same position. I think. No, Nagenda was also the presidential.
Oh yeah. Okay, for me.
My view is a bit different. That when you hold such very important positions in society, and sometimes paid for by citizens, I think we should have a standard of presentation and hold, because these are positions of example. They mentor, they reflect, they are an example. It's just like the same thing I often say with us as academic staff. And we're an example to society. We reflect, we mentor. The children look up to us.
You aspire.
And so, for example, I give an example. Others. A student shouldn't feel they are preyed on in my hands. I shouldn't even be hard. Shouldn't be hard. A lecturer has sexually harassed their student. That reflects so badly. And then again, a university as a space, the best place of mentorship, should be a best practice. So that when students leave, when these graduates leave finally as graduates, they go to change society. They go with this great mentorship to change society. Likewise, these positions that ministers, honorables, I don't know whether they are just titles only, but they should really reflect well on society. They should tell what we are. I just saw a tweet of an ambassador being, I don't know whether it's true or not, going to be
deported.
That's horrible. It's like it's a ghetto thing. An ambassador is my representative, is a president. And all these positions to me, and it's unfortunate, it so happens is a very brilliant man, and when you say this, you are moralizing, but this society needs great examples in every area, and to be able to grow the Gen Zs who are responsible also for it. But to approach everything as if we are absent and do not care, we don't mind about anything, you can steer and widen your eyes, you can justify anything, is truly, it's unfortunate. And it reflects
Thank you so
everywhere.
Much. Thank you. One thing that will keep coming out of these tributes, you'll hear people say Tamale was brilliant, was intelligent, an intelligent man, and it's true, because he was. I worked closely with him for very many years, and he is. Well, rest well, Tamale Mirundi, and quickly, let's go to our main topics for discussion this morning. As usual, you can send in your comments and observations on the topics we discuss. We have two issues, like I said in the beginning, the issue of the Kiteezi landfill tragedy and the court ruling on service awards. And let's start straight away with Kiteezi tragedy. As we speak, 34 bodies have been retrieved from the garbage or rubbish. It is estimated that at least 28 are still stuck because they are still missing in there. And for a week, hundreds of victims of this tragedy are sleeping under a makeshift shelter, only surviving on handouts from government and at the mercy of well-wishers. Again, another issue we can look at, whereas President Museveni ordered an investigation into the matter. No one has taken responsibility for this rather avoidable disaster. Then finally, another key issue we may put into consideration, the evidence available confirms that the Kiteezi tragedy was foreseen, and therefore it may not qualify to be an accident. I'll start with you, Dr. Jared Wanzala. Looking at this whole tragedy and reflecting on Uganda's disaster management plan or policy, if it's there, what do you make of this whole thing?
Thank you, Apple. First of all, I begin by sending sincere condolences to the families of those who have lost their loved ones. And of course, I would like to affirmatively agree that this was not an accident. It was foreseeable. I've seen a publication of 2017, an academic paper which was done in the same area. I have seen the writing of the Director of Public Health in the KCCA, and therefore I've also heard the facts of when this landfill was established in 1997 with the garbage of about 2,500 tons every day, and then the warnings, especially from the political wing of KCCA to Executive Director and the Office of the President, and saying let's decommission. I think there were proposals. I tried to reflect when they were done, some of them as early as 2016, requesting government to provide funds so that this can be, they can find another way, and then they decommission this particular one. So, but when I looked at the topic, I also felt it's prudent I talk about the policy. I had the opportunity to look at the disaster preparedness and management policy 2011. At the time we had MV Templar drowning on Lake Victoria. And we tried to blow the issue of disasters, you know, in the air on all the media to try to influence government. I can assure you that if you look at the policy framework, it is very well established. One, like the objectives that are one, to promote monitoring, and then preparedness, and then management of these disasters. Putting in place the institutional framework within the policy, it's there, from national level, starting with the president to the office of the prime minister as a coordination center, and then disaster management committees for cities, for districts. But the other gap that I have, of course, noted, these disaster committees are there. They are not trained, capacity building is lacking, and they also don't have, most times, resources. They are only activated when something happens. So meaning that and then when you go and look at the preparedness phase, it has to do with the planning. Now what we are witnessing in Kiteezi is failure of planning. The way we are handling issues around the country is as if we don't have a line of priorities and ranked them according to what we really want to achieve. Richard and the Honorable Prime Minister have just been representing us at the SDGs conference in the UN. And we were reporting one of the goals there is, you know, the issues of safe cities. That how should a safe city look like? When you talk about a safe city, you should look at issues of, one, the things of housing. How do you develop your housing estates? Because without proper housing plans and guidance, you cannot have a good sewage system for the city. Sewer system. And therefore, already, you are not having a sustainable city. Because eventually, this will be a public health issue where everyone has to come and remove feces, you know, manually, whenever their septic tanks are full. And as I speak, our city 70%, Kampala and its metropolitan, are not connected to the sewage line, sewer system. You look at things to do with the transport. Most of the Kampala residents are depending on unsafe borders. You know, they expose you to crashes, the health you inhale, you know, the wind. You know, people are stressed because of bad transport. And we seem not to be having any discussion around that. So it's a planning issue. You look at issues of public health itself, disposal of garbage. Now, the last few days, since we were denied to go and drop our garbage either in Mukono, Chengera, the garbage has been piling. Nakasero is full. So as we are rescuing the other side, we are creating another public health emergency in the city because the garbage is not disposed well. So for me, like we have always argued, we are very good at developing documents. But you see, a document, these policies are simply papers, writings. So if we cannot integrate what we have designed into practice, then we shall be wasting time. And you see, as I come to the conclusion of this, I think once you lose the moral fabric, the country, when the moral fabric dies, a country dies. Because in such an incident, certainly people would be taking responsibility and saying, I would want to see people, some people in the case CSA, here we failed, we are sorry. But what we are seeing is everyone trying to defend themselves to appear that they were right. They were right, you know.
So did you say this was not an accident?
Yeah, because it was predictable. It was known almost 10 years ago that was going to happen. People have visited there. Newspaper people have written in the newspapers.
So it qualifies to be criminal negligence?
It was criminal negligence of the highest order, but from different entities. One, the executive that has refused to increase the budget for that, but there's also allegations of corruption in the KCCA, whereby, you know, the landfills are supposed to have some engineering groundwork done down. And therefore also the quality of the maram when you are compacting must be quality. You don't just pour soil. You pour maram and then you compact it so that you don't leave room for too much rain to come, and then the water from there to contaminate the neighborhood, and sometimes groundwater. You know, there are people in Kampala who are depending on spring wells. So you have to be so careful. But if I ask, in its current form, was that place really a landfill, or it was just a garbage dumping place?
Thank you.
You know?
Thank you so much, Richard. Dr. Gerard Werihe critiques the planning, the planning capabilities of government. He calls it failure to plan, which must have resulted into this tragedy.
These deaths are not, you see, they are not different. There is nothing really different from what is happening generally in the country. There's really nothing different. No. You see, I am in road safety, and I have been rejecting the word accident. You know, I come here, I say, no, don't tell me that was an accident. It was a crash. Yes. There was a red light.
Expected.
Somebody came and drove through it. So really, how do you tell me that that is an accident? I don't know. This is why I refuse. I say, no. The nomenclature itself exonerates the duty bearers. It exonerates those who are responsible. It's the same thing I keep telling you, Apollo, when I come here. I say we call it misappropriation of public funds. We call it, we have several names. We call it, we have even codified them in law.
Yeah.
But for me, I call it stealing. You are a thief.
We call it embezzlement.
But you are a thief. That is why So this is for me.
But you have preached it where Ugandans are
Yes,
now.
I keep, yes, you see, I keep saying that. So when you tell me
You're saying this is not so different from what has been happening elsewhere.
this is part of what is going on. So for us to look at it, you see, when I was here, I said no, I cannot talk about Kiteezi
30
until you see that when we were, was it when they were saying there were 8? I think the headlines were saying. I said no, I can't talk about Kiteezi until for me you declare 50 people. I have been to Kiteezi. I was in Kiteezi 2015. So I saw the people who live there. It's an entire economic
activity.
It's an entire economic community with governance, with the people who allocate you space, plots, if you call them.
In the landfill?
Yes, they are the ones who specialize in Buvera. They are the ones who specialize in Vivera. They are the ones who specialize in plastic bottles. They are the ones who specialize in metals. So really, for me, and then there are these guys, all these guys who are sleeping along the landfill. So this width of the flow and the speed at which it was flowing, how do you tell me that? That's why I refuse. Say, for me, until you tell me the truth and
So
the
you
people who
expect
died are more
numbers
than
to
50,
be-
there's no question. Absolutely, there is no question about that. So
What does that speak to the planning?
no, not planning.
Yeah.
It's a governance question.
Oh.
It is not a failure of science. Planning is science. So it's not a failure of science.
It's governance.
It's a failure of governance. What did
At which level?
What is it we didn't know?
At which level? KCCA or this local level or?
All those levels. You see, KCCA, for example, the technocrats, have been asking for money
Yeah.
for this thing. You look at the budget proposals over the years, the money gets chopped out. When was the land bought for the other dumping site?
The other Dundu, which is
Because
2015.
for me, don't tell me that it is a landfill. It's a dumping site. A landfill also is a scientific. It's a scientific structure. A landfill is not just a garbage dumping place. No, it has architecture, it has engineering, it has environmental science, it has all those things. So Apollo, when we don't honestly look in the mirror and say this is another failure of governance, then we shall be it will zero in. I was saying we are going to zero in on the health officer, not even for the division. I don't know which division it is, but the health officer of this parish. Now that is the one who would be punished.
In Kiteezi.
Oh please, Apollo.
So Baguma, you also concur that this was not an accident.
It is murder. You want to start again sanitizing it. Criminal negligence. We are again sanitizing, codifying it even raw. This is murder.
Dr. Deus, you've been following this whole issue as the disaster was declared in Kiteezi. People have died. The numbers are increasing every day. It's now 7 days, but every day. I think it was just the day before yesterday, 6 more bodies were retrieved. So the numbers, we don't know how many people died in that landfill tragedy. How do you describe this? Because Baguma says this cannot be an accident. Dr. Jida Dwele says this is poor planning, actually planning failure. What do you call it?
I can't differ from what they're saying. A friend of mine keeps telling me, it's even in revolutionary studies, that all these are side effects of failure of leadership at every level of society. I think including a home. Maybe let me take it deeper, even self-governance. You are riding a bike you see the light has stopped you and you crash it, you will definitely be crushed at some point. It's just failure of leadership at all levels. But there must be someone responsible.
Exactly.
That's why we pay for these institutions to act. That's why we pay for presidency. That's why we pay for parliament. That's why they pay me. Maybe that's why you're also paid here, to responsibly communicate. So there must be someone responsible. So to me, and I repeat what my friend always tells me, all these are just symptoms of a total failure of leadership. To me, the problem is leadership, and at all levels. And so we can go in and see where have we failed in leadership. And it's written all over the world. Documents, beautiful documents, and we are good at writing, just like we are here talking out things. But we are very, very poor at enforcement. And it seems people have taken it to be like a joke. In fact, it's just, let it also pass a week or two, it passes and we go to another one. Maybe today, hundreds will also die of accidents. Some will die of malaria on the floors of when I see my speaker, for heaven's sake, deciding to take people to regions, to me, to billions. This is everything that has gone wrong. And surprisingly, ordinary people out there, they are clapping, they think it's the way. It's a whole joke of our lifetime. My brother Spire calls it a smell everywhere. It's just complete smell. Back to the specific incident. It's common science. I think as someone who did science, I know that methane gas can cause an explosion. It's an explosive gas, and landfills like these ones over time, I think 80% of the gas produced by landfill is methane actually. The other 10 are other gas, it's carbon dioxide. And then, if I recall, the rest now is oxygen, a little mixture of oxygen and stuff like that. And so methane over time will go under, will create a chamber at some point under the landfill somewhere, and then has potential to explode. And I was listening to someone last night who went to bury one of the victims, may their souls rest in peace, and told me that at some point, when this person was calling from inside the house, he was saying, no, it's too hot, it's like fire under here, and we are burning, meaning this whole mud, or whatever you call it, rubbish, was hot, indicative of some kind of explosion, that this methane could have exploded and causing, of course it's not strong, so it just tilts off. And we are also only talking about, I think many people could have died because houses even moved. I'm told they were looking for someone, and there were specific people saying the house was there. Actually, the person was found like 4 meters, 5 meters away. Yeah.
There are eyewitness accounts which that point to your opinion or analysis that they had something like a blast, and then later the rubbish came down on them.
Yes, and we are talking about this whole economy that my brother here is saying. People, it was early in the morning. I imagine the economic actors had already gathered, also they could also have been taken away. Absolutely. I'm sorry for saying this, laughing, but it shows you. But it also points to a lot of society problems that we have, that people are now depending on garbage like scavengers. Then we now hear news of extracts, people confessing that there was an attempt in the past to actually help. Investors wanted to help with this garbage, and then the corrupt people stop them, etc. So failure of leadership, and maybe back to what we are.
I'm running. I have to go for a break.
Yes. Yeah.
You call it failure of leadership.
Yes, at all levels.
Dr. Jared Were Wanzala calls it failure in planning, and
failure in governance.
And Richard calls it failure in governance. My name is Prince Apollo. Let's go for a short break. The dialogue will return after a short while, still interrogating the circumstances around the Kiteezi landfill tragedy, in which many people must have died. An accident or criminal negligence. And we ask, if it is criminal negligence, who is liable? Let's go for a break and return after a very short while. Welcome from the break. This is The Dialogue. My name is Prince Apollo. Richard Baguma Tinkasimile is a communication expert. He is in the studio today. Dr. Jared Were Wanzala, a public policy researcher, but also a lecturer at Uganda Management Institute in the studio. But we also have Dr. Deus Kamunyumuhwezi, lecturer, researcher, and a social critic from Makerere University. We are discussing issues relating to the tragedy at Kiteezi landfill, where it has already been confirmed that more than 35 people died in that particular disaster. And we are interrogating whether this is a failure of planning, is it criminal negligence, is it an issue with governance? And the panelists seem to agree that it is a problem and somebody must be responsible. Well, Richard, you call it a governance problem, a governance failure, but Dr. Kamunyu says somebody must be responsible. It can't be just there. Somebody must be held responsible.
Yeah, but you see, okay, let's first, I think, deal with that. Because it becomes emotional, then people stop debating rationally. It becomes emotional. Let me do my usual three things. This country is estimated to have among the highest levels of mental health challenges. I think the other day it was the Uganda government, actually, the Minister of Health and the
14 million.
Yeah, which told us. Now, when you are 40 million, we are 40 million? About
We are 45.9.
Yeah, so if you are 45 million and 14 of you have mental health issues and they didn't check the children, and the majority are children, it tells you what the country is like. And so, when you want to be too serious sometimes about the many things that are going on in the country, you end up among the 14 million or worse. So I was having this talk, I said, no, I think we should classify the people who are directly responsible, particularly for neglecting their responsibility. We classify this as murder. And then the guy told me, but Baguma, what is your problem? Whether you die in Kasasaro or in whatever dignified manner, you will end up rotting and rot and stink. So what's your problem? I said no. I think these things are going to make me. So responsibility. How many times have we in the media spoken out about Kiteezi? How strongly have we spoken out about Kiteezi in the media? We all knew. We all knew. How come we are not organized? How come we are not providing leadership to ourselves, media practitioners, and speak for such causes? So we like to externalize failure because we don't reflect. Dr. Kamunyu here, they have been cowed. These academicians, they have been cowed. You can see, I sometimes see the moves that are done on them to scatter them. So they are totally absent in discourse.
Researchers and
they are absent. They do research, excellent research, because I'm a consumer. Because me, in my activism and lobbying, I get challenged about facts. I don't look anywhere far. Makerere University, you go to the Institute, I don't know, Economic Policy Research, Environmental, they do great work. But they have been cowed also. They do. You do a dissemination, as we call it, in a workshop, 100 people, like-minded, you go. The recommendations are controversial, you don't want trouble. Because we like taking leadership to the politicians, and we all look away.
Yeah, but we have.
So
we,
in that,
we have KCA,
in this, no, forget
an
it.
entity
In this area,
that is charged with.
is there no Catholic diocese? Is there no Protestant diocese? Is there no Muslim Qadi? Is there no Pentecostal leader? How come these Indiga, the sheep, appropriately actually called sheep, you know? How come these sheep, the ones shepherding these sheep, nothing? So you see, failure is at these levels. Now, so we can say responsibility, political responsibility. Who takes political responsibility? We know the leadership of this city. But the one who is supposed to take responsibility, the top politician, political leader in this city,
the Lord Mayor.
Actually, we'll go also saying somebody.
Technical.
Yeah.
Blames the technical.
Somebody else. Then the technical will blame the technical. That's why I told you that the health officer of the parish, the weakest in the chain, is the one who will be sacrificed. So you have the political leadership. But political leadership, don't we have a minister responsible for this area?
Yeah, Kampala.
Yeah. So there are those who will have direct political leadership, who have known, who have been informed, who have played politics around this. Doesn't the area have a member of parliament?
It has.
Yeah, so how come the members of parliament from around the area, they will undress for certain cause, you know, and we don't see them standing for this one? Shouldn't they take
responsibility?
Yes, political responsibility. So for me, externalization of responsibility is my first problem.
Good.
But so yes, there are political responsibility, technical responsibility, but we have silence responsibility. We really share in this responsibility.
Good. Dr. Gerard, research has been done on Kiteezi. Recommendations have been made. Actually, I can recall in 2010, the mayor hopeful Nasantege Sebagala, rest in peace, he proposed that if at all he was elected into leadership, he would set up an incinerator that would help consume and demolish this garbage and make it less dangerous as it has been. So there have been proposals. We've even heard that some investors were brought in, but nothing. So we have research, we have people who make recommendations, we have everything, but the thing remains as it is. From when it was set up until now, nothing has changed. No improvement on it to make it safer, nothing. What have we become?
Apple, for me, I'm not going to be very academic on this. And I'm not going to run away from the truth. You remember around that time is when even the law, proposals to amend the law to create the Kampala Capital City Authority. The reasoning behind was that let's make it a separate entity under the office
of the president,
and therefore we depoliticize it, have an executive director, and therefore this will improve,
make it more effective.
Yeah, it will be effective, and therefore there will be improvement in service delivery. You remember a lot of debate was around. There are those who were pro, others who were against. But since it originated from the government, central government, we gave President Museveni the capital city. And when we gave him, he's also aware that in Kampala we are over 2 million. If you add the other parts of Kampala outside, we're almost 4 million people. If you add Wakiso, Mukono, you know, and that's why some people had proposed Kampala Metropolitan Planning Authority to include all these neighboring areas. The planning is comprehensive because most of the problems are interconnected. Today, when Madame Musisi was the executive director, we saw good political will. The budget shot up, increased, and there were a number of changes that were made. Now, thereafter, after her sacking, I know my president never ceases to interest me because he said, I gave this girl a lot of money and he ended up just wasting. He brought another person, and then we saw the budget being cut almost by half. Now, and also, you see the same politics we are trying to run away from. It is also playing out. I can assure you that the Public Accounts Committee of KCCA cannot have access to so many procurement contracts. They are hidden by the technical people, and yet these institutions are created that if the technocrats are implementing, then you have PAC, which will monitor these ones, and then a report will be brought to the people's representatives, made public. But many of them are just hiding. So the usual games have gone on. Then also, there is a problem. If you are able to allocate 132 billion for presidential donations, and then you also add 30 billion for donations of the speaker, the vice president, and so these are very few. But now we, the 4 million plus, see the resources we are given. Not even, very little resources. So we put much money where there are fewer people and less money where we have more people. So at the end of the day, it comes back to the political will. But this political will is not going to change unless we all exercise our responsibility of saying something. Zipping up, of course, sometimes to avoid stress, but it does not change anything. So for me, we need to go back to a drawing board, beginning with one, budgeting. How are we budgeting? Because I have seen disaster mapping, in the document I saw droughts, famine, flooding, you know, the drowning and transport related. There are so many documented and they are sitting there in the office of the Prime Minister. But now the challenge is, why are we not addressing even the basics? People who invest in recycling, people who invest in turning some of these biodigestible garbage into fertilizers, manure, they may need some incentives to begin. And therefore, this move must be deliberate. You will not just say, for me, I'm sitting by. It should be the role of the government to ensure that there are some incentives for these people to come and solve this problem and handle it sustainably, because the population will grow, it will continue growing, the garbage will continue to be produced. Why is that cities like Beijing that have 30 million people are able to manage garbage?
Their garbage,
And if you don't find it on the street, because they have created systems.
So you raised the issue of priorities, a question on priorities, that possibly we are spending money somewhere and we leave out
absolutely with all
key priorities.
He was talking about health, for instance. Yesterday, the Minister of Health this week was presenting a statement about heart diseases in Uganda. 25% of the population has hypertension. This
Same thing. You can't feel to be
hypertension, mental health. Look at the problems that
we have a problem now. Like you have a city with dilapidated road infrastructure.
Absolutely. Where
now you have another problem of rubbish now killing people.
Yes.
And the people a bigger percentage, a sizable percentage, have mental issues.
Yes. 25% have heart issues.
Heart issues. Where are we going?
The 70% of kids who are going to CTPL or in the rural areas cannot read and write.
Doctor, we must conclude on this issue. I don't know what recommendations now you can, because he talks about budgeting, and indeed the managers of the city, I have listened to them, they are saying they don't have budget to put a garbage recycling plant at Kiteezi or elsewhere. They don't have money. Possibly their hands are tied.
Yeah, there's something he raised, and it's a very serious issue. And I've always told people that when I was growing up, because many people keep telling me, you NRA, because I like calling President Muzei. They want me to quarrel, but I say Muzei. Why? Because I grew up seeing him as a Messiah. He was a Messiah to us as children, praying for him. And
A hero.
I am telling you, this is the truth. You can go and inquire. Because we were dramatized. We were in danger at that time. The same danger one could claim now. Totally dramatized. And he presented a voice of an alternative view, a country that I think we have somehow enjoyed for some years, but now it's beginning to go down. Back to leadership. The president is responsible, whether he likes it or not. He is our president. And like he said, Kiteezi finally went under his office. And back to the man I admired also, Professor Poronsivambi, we suffer from presidentialism. When something is under president's office, everyone is always asking, what do you think the president is thinking? So people may not even make decisions until he says something. Maybe he should get active. It's a bit late, but he should get active in saying something. See, remove that because everything is about him in a way, because people are waiting for his word. And since Kiteezi went to the president's office and it has a minister, deputy minister, an ED, we shouldn't take that lightly. They should do something. They can't draw money from a taxpayer without results. This must be taken serious. Me on priorities or no priorities, back to a question of leadership, it's just all a mess. And in some way, since we are suffering from presidentialism, the president should say something, should make sure these institutions work. He still has the capacity to do so. He can tell things work. They make a decision and I kill you for it. But
There's a difference between capacity and will.
People have capacity actually, but they always say, what is he saying? I have seen it. I am somewhere where I say, what do you think they're thinking? And it's like people are beginning to think maybe the president doesn't want it straight. He wants it maybe shoddy somehow. Because if it's straight, then it has to be right priority, right actions, and probably the most see way we could say. So, in my view, the authority cannot run away from this. They have responsibility.
They are the managers of this city.
And it's under the president's office, the most powerful office in the land. And they are the ones who appropriate together with parliament. And so I don't see any problem in terms of structure. But where I see a problem is politics. And you see, the politics of survival. LC1 wants to survive, and then the politics of the economy. Everyone wants to survive. The MP is like, I don't take care.
Actually, what you are not talking about.
The president is also not touch them, but they are going to
what
go
you're
this
not
side.
talking about, the garbage sector is a very lucrative business. People are making money out of this business.
Yes, it is a whole political economy. The politics of leadership, of survival as a leader, the politics of economy. I see that playing, and it undermines the technical abilities, the technical capacity of those responsible for it. So they are driven to, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, the budget for Kiteezi or whatever, budget for all these roads goes to mobilizing the youth in the city, putting money in their circles, trying to mobilize them so that they don't go to Kwago. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case actually. That actually money is there, it's allocated, but it's often taken to help give churches to mobilize for you. I wouldn't be surprised because these are politics of survival as opposed to politics of leadership, of managing society for an end result. And so the call is on leadership to return especially NRA, me, I say, to return to where we promised people to be, and to try as much as possible, because we have no choice. We either return to the right line or to the right action, or we go down the lane and we have all the Kiteezi's flood us. And so to me, that's where the call is, that we return. We have very good policies, we have good plans. Let's turn to responsibility. And the Erites are not helping at all. They're all dramatized. Everyone is in they don't even know that they are cursing their own children in this whole activity. Because where will they get jobs? If you are all dramatized, where will your children get jobs? Are you assuming that if you are a speaker, your son will, okay, some of the people who are absent-minded usually say, oh, they will see what to do in their time. But are you? Maybe you are also among the 14 million people mentally ill. Are you okay? The reason why people died, struggling for this government, those who died, may their souls rest in peace, had wished that this would be a different time. We would be struggling, yes, as a peripheral economy, would be struggling to build, but at least the basics would be in place. And that at least. But let me say something like
Finally, we're running out of time.
Where are the people? I just feel, because you see,
Which
this
people?
system we are in, this system we are in, you can blame Saka, is she the
Dorothy
ED?
Saka.
You can blame Rukwako. But the system we are in is a system of the people. It's the democracy.
Do they still have that power?
I don't know, but you go to Kiteezi, the houses I used to see there, some seem to be like very important people, very educated.
Yeah, true.
Actually, one of the ladies who died was working at
said
TMI.
It was a studied building.
Very important. Where I would have expected them to mobilize among themselves, say, this smell is too much. Or to even say, how do I live near a garbage?
But how do you do that? Because you see,
I don't know.
let me tell you. You see, several of these people know that they got the land not in very straight ways. Because the land of the landfill is actually bigger than where the landfill is sitting.
Yes.
The other acres were allocated. Yeah, so people don't even want to talk, because you start questioning the ownership. You may start questioning.
So that means the people.
But I think what Richard talks about is what President Museveni is probing. I remember in his communication, he said, I want the Deputy IGG to investigate how those people who live around the landfill came to be there in the first place. We are running out of time. I have to switch to another topic. But let's conclude on this. Dr. Jared Welanzala, I don't want to speculate, but I look at this whole issue as could have been also exploited for economic reasons, because if you have investors willing to come and do it, actually I've heard and interviewed people who had linked up with investors who were ready to put in their own money in that landfill, in that garbage or waste disposal plan, but they were all blocked. They are all not allowed to take on that important venture. So I in one way suspect that possibly the people who are in this business now, the people who are running this business of waste disposal, maybe the people behind this whole business, maybe are profiteering from they don't want a foreign investor to come and outcompete them and take business out of, away from the, I don't know what you think. And
we have a few Ugandans who are in manufacturing, especially packaging, who are utilizing.
We need to know how complicated is this technology to work on waste. Is it so?
I think I mentioned it here that it has to be deliberate in the way that we must take a decision, and then we provide a conducive environment for these people to come. But also, like you said, you say you are privy to information that some went and then they were tossed. That is why countries with high instances of corruption have a problem attracting investment. Instead, people prefer to trade with them because when you want to set up something, yesterday I was reading something about involving some officials in the Ministry of Agriculture. You bring these people from Netherlands, you know, say we need these tons and tons of fertilizer, and then you say before you do this, bring $100,000, $100,000,
No,
$50,000.
somebody testified in camera.
Yes.
Just a day before.
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago, that he brought an investor here, and an investor was asked 10% of the whole contract before he even sets up the
$2.4 million.
But we are in court for the 20% cut on the budget of a government commission.
So Apple, one, it has to be deliberate, but two, that's why some of us have kept on talking about corruption, theft of public resources. If we don't talk about theft, at one point, you'll meet problems, the effect of theft of public resources. Either you'll crash on the road, either you'll die in garbage.
It's yours.
This is one
We
of
find these challenges everywhere, the effects of corruption everywhere.
So the people who died are victims of corruption too.
Corruption,
Definitely.
governance
have to
problem,
say,
we summarized
it's
it.
governance.
Because governance is...
Thank you so much. May their souls rest. We still commiserate with the families of the victims of Kiteezi. But we have to move on. Quickly look at court ruling. We have extensively had conversations on the service award. And finally, High Court ruling made it clear. Anyway, it's a ruling that the awards were lawfully, given to the beneficiaries. But I have one particular issue I will point out. I will read something I had put down here. However, Dr. Singiza, acting judge, ruled that the clerk to Parliament as the accounting officer has a special role in the budgeting process and should have detected mistakes in the budget. So there were mistakes in the budget. Since the service award is unknown in the payment system of Parliament and therefore improper. As a consequence, Justice Singiza ruled that the clerk to Parliament was negligent. He says, under the law, Parliament cannot increase its emoluments even if it's disguised as a service award without a motion by the executive head or his representative, and therefore, since it was done without the executive, it was improper. A ruling that has come under scrutiny now. It has somehow become a controversial issue. You take a first shot, Richard.
Yeah, if you remember, slavery, denial of women votes, telling women here that they can't eat eggs, genital mutilation, scooping out female genitalia, apartheid and stuff. They were all codified in some either cultural law, traditional law, or statute books. Yeah, so for something to be written in the law does not automatically make it right. No, it is legal, lawful, but it's not necessarily right. And you see what we have been talking about, the Kiteezi. We are not talking about the law, what law will stop a landfill covering you. Probably you can't legislate that. Yeah. But it will happen. So that's this again. It is this same context. Who authorized a $500 million payment to another member of Parliament for working for a year, for working while being paid for a year? This is precisely what we are talking about. You see, the Dr. Kamunyus, the generals, I tell the professors that they are generals in academia. They get half the money, senior 6 equivalent get. Less than half. What senior 6 equivalent get. And that is legal. It is lawful. But really,
Unfair.
but really, is that what we should be? Is that what we should be dealing with? You tell the interns that you are going to cut their money, which you had promised to pay them and actually allocated. You are going to cut it by more than 50% so that they can be deployed. And then you don't deploy them. Yeah, so for me, this is the difference I'm talking about. That you are going to punish a health officer of the parish of Kiteezi. Who authorized, who took the money? Why are we focusing on the crack? Why? The technical crack who was instructed, who was ordered.
Yeah.
And you know how powerful they can be.
The commission is very powerful.
Yes, they will go and undermine you to the core.
With the speaker, deputy
and you will go to
speaker,
prison. They will
Minister of
bring out
Finance.
papers where you signed, and the anti-corruption unit will pick you the next day, and you'll be all over the news. What do? You sign off, and they take their money. And now, this is what I was telling you. That you see these diversions, this impunity, where you keep diverting, misinforming, disinforming the population. Now, focus is going away from the award. They said he behaved improperly. There is a word they were using. So now we are going to be at the improper behavior
of the clerk of the parish.
of the accounting office. And that's what I'm supposed to be debating. No, for me, if you root, you are rooting at the top, and that's where the fish starts rotting anyway. Let's deal with the rooters.
Okay, let me read some of the messages, though we moved on from the first topic. Team Dialogue, good morning. Thanks for the program. Apollo and the Salt Media family, thanks for inviting different panelists with different ideas. Alex from Kisugu, but he says the Kiteezi disaster has really affected the whole of Kampala because garbage is now full in people's houses, gates, and this could result into other diseases because so far no NKCCA truck that is collecting them. We need action. Okay, that's another disaster looming. He says, let me read this one. Morning, thanks for the program. I say it's negligence because time back a team from Korea declared the place risky and made recommendations. Currently in Bududa, government gave people money 7 million. Then after a year, they gave again 10 million. Now after 3 months, OPM is saying relocate using the same 17 million. When I engaged a few members, they say they use the money, so government should walk the talk. Peter Nangoti in Bududa. Actually, I'm not so sure if the Bududa risk was managed completely, because that's a disaster. It was a disaster of 2009.
Actually, I want to agree with that guy.
That they were given little money, according to him. He talks about only 17 million, and now they are telling them relocate.
Yeah, he's right. It happened in Bududa and a few areas in Namisindwa. But you see, the whole approach is what we have what we have been talking about. The jokes, doing jokes when it comes to serious issues. How can you relocate with 17 million? A person who owns the land, who owns the house, who have a family. You know, the whole thing is a joke. People are back there, they are not going in because they hate the 7 million they got.
And the 17 is not all from government.
Okay. You can,
there is an NGO.
Yes.
You can keep those messages coming.
I think
Please,
it's called send directly.
Send in your messages on WhatsApp. Don't call the number. Tell us what you think about the Kiteezi disaster and whether it is negligence or an accident. Dr. Jared Wiranzala, talk about the court ruling. We only have a few minutes, but you can tell what you think. And its implications anyway.
For me, when I saw the ruling, I think in my own head, I said this is a draw, but I never expected a draw in the law. Because if you say
a draw like
if you say like you're playing a game
0-0.
and maybe you score 1-1 or 0-0 and you settle for that without a winner. In this case, I think the ruling was so similar to that, because it settled the legal question, but the moral issue is not solved. And you see, I was trying to look at the law and also looking at the roles of the leadership tribunal. Okay, the IGG actually should have initiated an investigation on that and referred that matter to the ethics tribunal, leadership tribunal.
Not the courts of law.
Because the courts of law looked at the legal
Only
things.
the legal questions.
They did not look at the moral things. The responsibility for the moral things is the leadership tribunal. We could have gone further to check whether at the time they received that money, they declared it under their declaration of wealth. Because this was additional income outside their own earnings, and therefore you would be able to convict someone. But of course the leadership tribunal acts on either petition, which some lawyers, the Walubiris, Kwesigabos wrote, and nothing has taken place. But the IGG just kept quiet about it.
No, but you know the IGG, once a case is in court, then the IGG cannot proceed with the...
Yeah, but before it went to court, already we had discussions, maybe over 2 months before this guy went to court. So they still had ample time to investigate. And actually they attempted, but they never made their findings public. So they just had to pull back. It's like institutions fearing each other. Maybe if I injure this one, tomorrow I will appear and my budget will not be increased, which will be another form of corruption.
The judiciary on one side, fearing to anger the...
Like say the inspectorate, fearing to anger the commission and the speaker, because they will take their budget proposals to parliament. And therefore there will be questions, or they may have issues of accountability themselves before a public accounts committee.
You find this ruling, how do you call it, unfair, unreasonable?
Well, in matters of law, it is reasonable. But we have not exhausted all our judicial system, like using the leadership tribunal to try this one, because if you are going to punish Adolf Mwesije, okay, who failed to give technical advice, how about these ones who sat in the meeting, took a decision and they shared? Were they children that they did not understand the existing laws? They don't understand the Leadership Code Act, which bars people from deciding on matters in which they have direct interests. And then you ask yourself, what is the composition? Actually, the question of what is the composition of the Parliamentary Commission has not been resolved. Because according to Administration of Parliament Act, a commission is deemed constituted if it has the Speaker, the Deputy, the Minister of Finance, the Leader of Government Business, who is the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, and then four backbench MPs. Was it a commission or a group of commissioners meeting?
Very many questions, but it's a court ruling. Dr. Deus, you followed this matter too, to the time when the ruling was delivered, and the ruling on one side says the whole process was lawful because even the money was budgeted for in the budget for Parliament and even endorsed by the executive. Then on the other side it says it was it was improper for the clerk to Parliament not to advise that there was an illegality somewhere.
When I was a chairman of MWASA, before I used to be the chair of welfare and public relations in MOBS, and then I became a PR, and then MWASA main campus, and then the chair of the association. There is something that my brother, senior brother, whom I can mention, advised me, that matters of industrial relations are never settled by court, because basically in industrial relations you're actually making laws, you're pushing for a situation which is not there. So don't go to court to sort of, the court will stifle your progress. We're talking about social process. To me, corruption and the absence of leadership is a matter that we have to conscript in our progress socio-economic movements. You can't, I'm not disrespecting courts, because they can make something terminal. They can imprison Mandela, they can hang Mother Teresa, they can do anything. They can kill children, and that's why even in the traditional societies, a lawyer or someone who was called to arbitrate was the most wise of all. I think the most famous is
Solomon.
King Solomon, the most wise of all. And we have problems there as well, where, for example, courts can be used to stifle progress also. And yet they also have capacity to set precedents, to allow society to move forward, to push forward. So all this is not without corruption. But let me take it as a ruling, meritorious, and based on our laws. Then one thing comes up. I saw a video, someone arguing just this morning or last evening, that maybe this also ruling could have been procured in a way that would result into what we are in now. The censure motion, secure is storing, and because of this discussion, maybe the person who went to court knew that this would result, and was saying maybe the other people also went to court aware that this would be a result. Leave that alone. But I ask myself, that's why the Mpugas and my brother, the Segonas, should tell me, what is opposition for? What is this called opposition? These people who are in ties, presenting themselves as an alternative government, what are they for? Are they creating an environment that confuses citizenship? Or they are there for serious business, and that their work is to guide appropriation in the alternative? Or they have decided that they can't do that, and so let them get involved also as pigs and confuse the whole situation, so that maybe we can think afresh. What are they for? And this is where I begin. I premise my discussion that even when the court is pronouncing itself a lot, Mpuga, as a commissioner, though he goes there and becomes a property of the commission, but he had responsibility as an alternative, as a representative of an alternative view, which is saying Ugandans must be given a fair hearing in all this, in appropriation, in making sure resources are properly prioritized. He should have been the one to say, look,
I'm not taking it.
Why are you giving me this? Has the economy, have we returned the positives? Is our debt equity ratio going down? Our debt, have we played a very good role to extend now? There are schools everywhere. Said schools have increased. Corruption is on its knees. And so we should be given a service award. Expected
you
that
should
from
have been the first person to question legality and
but I admired him. I listened to some of his interviews and I said, look at these people, call them something very wide-eyed, open, smart-looking, posturing, undermining the progress of the African people. The people which says budget prudence requires. Can't you really see? Can't you be one of those who is seen saying that let this money go to this appropriate activity, and that we should make sure it works, and that you are not lost in this chaos of reasoning
people
and counter reasoning and eating. Can't there be clarity? And that's why I agree with the president, though he's also my president and he should also take responsibility in all those things, that there is no viable opposition. And sometimes I think he's right, though it is his responsibility also to build for greater civic awareness, so that we can also be able to solve these problems ourselves, because that's also part of the leadership he has, that as a president he leaves this country with a level of civics that can make us progress. He can't possibly say you are the problem. Now, this is where I have a problem.
Finally,
that courts in the past, they have hanged people, they have hanged everyone, including the most everywhere. The one, like he said, the affirmed slave trade, the
apartheid in South
apartheid, the even I think endorsed colonialism, mutilation and all, hanging, stuff like that. So I respect the courts because they play a role only when they are reasonable and that they are part of the struggle to liberate and to push the African liberation agenda forward. Because It's chaos. It's all chaos. It's smeared everywhere. And for any intellectual given responsibility to actually dispense, their heart and mind and soul should be on those unable to who do not expect to live the next day. And we can all do that in our responsibility. I can do it as a teacher. A judge can do it in their this powerful gown. Members of parliament in their honorableness can do it. And that's the real purpose of leadership, which is fading at every level.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deus Kamunyu. Any service award go through plenary. Of recent, for the former Auditor General, his award was discussed. Why not for the commissioners? How much did other members of the commission? No one tell, because here only 4 were awarded. So the whole process was a mess and the judgment was biased. Thank you so much. It's another comment coming in from Nangoti in Bududa, Peter from Nangoti. We need to conclude this show. Emmanuel from Tororo says, Uganda today has no leaders. We only have politicians. Their biggest concerns are financial stability, stealing from us, the poor, desperate taxpayers. Oh, thank you so much, Emmanuel. That is your opinion, and we read opinions as they come in. Richard, we need to conclude in just 3-4 minutes. Just give us your parting shot, because now Dr. Gerard already talked about the judiciary, or even the IGG's office, those watchdog institutions, and even the judiciaries are no bitter, now fearing to anger people who appropriate their budgets and what.
But they rush for PDM committee chairman.
So what now does that tell on the future of this country?
Yeah, but you see, the dismissal of the alcohol drinks control law by Parliament, mob. You can't debate it, you can't talk about it. No, just dismiss it. The same time, the collapse of Kiteezi. The same time, the awarding of
has been sanitized
of
now.
service award to it. When you don't see the connection, when you don't see the string, then you are not being fair to yourself. They are intertwined. It's that collapse. Yes, it's because it's the same society, it's the same leadership, it's the same people. It's that collapse. And you see, the absence of what would be traditional voices, the media, religious leaders, faith leaders, and forget the political leaders, and academia. The absence of that in the leadership really is ominous for me, is ominous, is dark. And so we need to see these things together. And that's why, Apollo, we cannot afford to just give up, even when it is dangerous. Because the explosion of that methane gas under the landfill will find you in this house. It will wash away your house because we are in the neighborhood. We live in the same neighborhood.
People now think of their stomachs than serving the country. This game of politics will kill this country, and he is Jimmy Mugabe in Ntungamo. Thank you so much, viewers from Ntungamo, and we are concluding the show. Dr. Jared Wanzala, the presiding judge, gave a strong warning that if this practice of service awards and people awarding themselves certain privileges is not curtailed, I'm not using the particular words, he said that we will wake up one day and find our reserves depleted.
Absolutely, because look at the act itself, okay? A few, just a cross-section of the commission seats, awards themselves, and then they've finished less than a year in office, and yet the term of a commissioner is 2.5, which can be renewed, like they're now serving 5 years, the NRM commissioners. But within less than 1 year, you approve and share. What are you thanking yourself for? And then the other is, you see, they talked about the coding of the budget. That's what the court case was talking about. That they put it under the lawful emoluments of retired government officers, former speaker, vice president, what. Then they also fixed service award, which the judge is called alien in our system. That because if it is ex gratia, it should be within an existing act. But you code it, you put it wrongly. What is the motive of hiding it there? And then quickly it comes when you have already paid yourselves. Actually, what is more immoral is that Parliament took a loan from the Parliament Pensions Fund to pay these people very quickly as they wait for next year to receive the money. So that's why, for me, and I think many members of the public there, that the moral question is not solved. And for us, we are going to continue talking about such actions. Will it ever be solved?
Because even the censure motion, which was going to open debate, has collapsed now. There is a court ruling. It's been overtaken by events.
But this, I would like to disagree. You know why?
That's what actually, that's why the Pugas are celebrating.
No, I know even the timing of this ruling had something to do with the, I think it was an arranged exit, something to do with this motion. But Mpuga didn't, but Sechikubo's motion does not only talk about the 1.7 billion. It talks about corruption in the commission. Probably has other information that would like to bring to the public, which we don't know. But the court case cannot stop because these are government different institutions, and the issue in the court was not about the motion anyway.
We can only wait.
Yes.
Dr. Deus, your parting remarks in just 1.5 minutes.
Yeah, I as an active reader in the other world, in political economy, I didn't do history or things, but I like reading a little about, like, for example, Machiavelli and his I took time to read around. And he lived around the time of the Medici family, which was a rule, a 700-year rule in Italy, in Tuscany. And it was a very, very rich family which controlled Europe almost, and including even the extent of having about 3 popes they controlled. And they used corruption to rule. And in effect, that every one of us is allowed to be corrupt. You'll be allowed to steal some bananas, you'll be allowed to steal some chicken. And then the stealing would continue to swell until the top. Then the Supreme will now steal everything that is valuable. So you are all guilty, in essence. You are all guilty. So corruption can actually be a system of rule.
Really?
Such that you are held at ransom for your small sinfulness. And then the upper people steal the entire whatever. So that's why Machiavelli, in trying to guide that as a pseudo-intellectual, he wrote The Prince to guide in the way society can be exploited. But later he realized that this corruption was also not good for him, because first of all, he did not get what he wanted. He wanted to be made an important person in that made. They refused to do so because there were a lot of competing challenges. And then
what do you foresee? Because we have only
half a
minute to
as he parted, he wrote the discourse, and that's my parting. And the discourse was, you're saying, no, look, people, you are under siege. You have to liberate yourselves.
The same person who...
you have to liberate yourselves. You are under siege. You must be free. You must act in freedom. You must stop these people. they did this and that.
Do you expect anything positive from the president's investigations? The investigations he ordered in Kiteezi or anywhere?
You know, I've always trusted my president. He has power. He has created that power. And if he had the will, he had to use it for the benefit of this country. we would. I still have hope. Many people say you are hopeless to think that way. I still have hope that he can actually be serious and things work. On whether the investigation will be done and it results, we've seen so many things, and maybe it will be one of them.
We can also wait.
Yeah, but we can't afford as a society to be hopeless. We can't afford that hopelessness is our portion.
Mode of operation.
No.
It's amazing, it's exciting, but it's sad that that certain events like the one in Kiteezi are happening in our midst. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. My name is Prince Apollo Richard Baguma. Thank you so much. Dr. Werihe, thank you so much. And Dr. Deus, thank you so much for your time. Our audience, viewers, thank you so much. Those who sent in comments and observations, thank you. The production team, thank you so much. Until next weekend, we are going out. Good afternoon, and God bless Uganda.